Art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creating. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing but mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join the conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist, learn about their inspiration, and enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to ARTalk with John Cole Artist. Well, good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, and I always have to look at my calendar. I don't know why I can never remember the day when it comes to Tuesdays. Today's the 29th of August in 2023, and I have got, first of all, I'm John Cole Artist. Welcome to ARTalk. I'm very, very excited tonight because as my special guest, I have Tabitha Robinson. Now, Tabitha and I have never met. However, I was lucky enough to be on her podcast about a month and a half ago. And I'll be honest with you, folks, having only really spoken to her once and this being the second time, I think she's like a kindred spirit of mine. And what you're going to see tonight is that her and I have an awful lot in common. So first of all, Tabitha, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, John. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I've been looking forward to this ever since I talked to you the last time because I had reached out on Facebook on one of those, and I forgot the name of the site, forgive me, one of the pages, but it's where people could kind of reach out and I guess connect for podcast guests and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah, and I reached out to you.
Yeah, and I loved seeing you right away. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is kind of doing what I do, and he's kind of like me. So I started looking at everything you were doing, and I'm like, this guy's really interesting.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I found you just fascinating. I think we spent probably about an hour and 10 minutes talking and that time just flew by because like me, we're both doing a podcast and what I'm seeing, and we're going to show some of your artwork later on in this broadcast, but you've got a wide range of skills.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just excellent stuff. So I was wondering, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm an artist. I work with different kinds of mediums. So as you can see behind me, I make quilts, but I also make dolls, purses. I do polymer clay, and I do hair bows and stuff too. So I just kind of do a little, and I paint. Painting is kind of really close to my heart. I don't know what it is, but I love painting.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I actually did a Facebook post earlier today on my John Cole Artist page talking a little bit about that. But I think there's really something special about creativity in general, right? That whole idea of being able to express yourself, whether or not it's in polymer clay or with a brush and canvas. It's really kind of a very therapeutic thing.
Oh, it really is, and I love meeting other artists too. So one of the other things I do is my podcast for Unique Artisans, where I meet with different artists and we talk about, what they're doing and kind of how they got into it. And it's really fun to see that creativity in other people too. Like I find talking to artists really inspires me. Like I get off the calls and I'm like, oh, I want to do something.
Right. Yeah. So what, first of all, there's my wife, Christine Cole. She says, hello, beautiful souls.
Hi, Christine.
So thank you, Christine, for tuning in this afternoon. So the podcast, now let me ask you, and this is a question that I don't know, I don't remember if we talked about it, but if not for my audience, why podcasting? Why did you even start down that road?
Well, okay, so Unique Artisans was an idea me and my husband had come up with years ago. And at that point, it wasn't a podcast, but it was a way to feature different artists and their art. Like I'm very much consumed with what people make. I just love what they do a lot of the times and how people leave kind of a piece of themselves in the art they make, whatever medium they choose to use. And so I sat with it for a while. And then for some reason, last fall, I was like, if I don't do something with this, I'm never going to do something with this. And I love talking to people. I love sharing their art. I'm going to meet with artists and I'm going to try to show what they're doing to the world, at least as much as I can.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it started. So I started with a couple of friends that I knew. So I contacted them and I was like, hey, I know you're doing with amigurumi stuff. I know you crochet. Like, you want to meet with me? Like, I'd really like to talk with you, and I'll feel better if I talk to someone I know.
Right.
And it just kind of went through there. Hi, Joanne. Joanne's watching. I love Joanne. She's such a sweetheart. She's a really good family friend, and she's a really good customer too. So
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, Joanne. I appreciate that as well.
yeah, it's got to be cool that you get to see everyone talking up here. That's one thing I don't get in my podcast because I pre-record mine.
Right. Yeah. We were talking a little bit about that before we went live here. And it's kind of interesting because, my decision to do it live, um, yeah, why did I decide to do it live? I think I decided to do it live because at the time it seemed easier for me, right? Because as you know, if you're gonna pre-record, there's going to be some post-production work after. And I know
Yeah.
with the way that my life has been lately, if I do something intending to follow up later, the odds of me getting to it anytime soon, one thing will overcome something else. And next thing you know, it's been 2 weeks and now my podcast is out of date. But you decided to go the pre-recorded route or uh, you decided to go the pre-recorded route, which I think is also very effective because I've seen the quality of what you do and they're very, very good. Now, have you ever tried doing a live broadcast?
I haven't tried doing a live broadcast, although I've thought about it a lot because I think that because it is when you're talking about the post production stuff, there is a lot of legwork post production to
Mhm.
try to make sure everything goes well. Whereas with this, it's kind of like you put it in and let the chips lie where they lie, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you never know what somebody's going to say. I don't even know what I'm going to ask. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. Well, and I don't really either. Like, I have about 5 questions that I try to work into every one of my interviews, but really I kind of let the people lead. Like, I want to know what they want to tell me.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice to be able to just kind of ask them a couple of standard questions and then ask them about what they're doing and what you see from the person while you're talking to them. It's intimate. I don't know. I like it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was one of the things. Oh, and Tammy sends 3 hearts. I don't know if you know Samantha Tammy.
Ah, that's my sister.
Oh, hi
Hi,
Samantha. Um, yeah, what was I going to say? Geez, my mind just went blank. Anyway, I think either method, right? Whether or not it's live or whether or not it's pre-recorded, bringing in artists for the purpose of inspiring others and inspiring yourself,
Sam.
right? Because I think that's always been a goal, and that was one of the goals I had when I started this podcast. Was I really wanted to be able to motivate and inspire other people to at least think about or trying something new, right? Or at least saying,
Yep.
something. I might not paint, I might not, I'm not a quilter, but I am really good at, I don't know, glass blowing or something, right? Maybe I
Yep.
should pursue that, or maybe I'm interested in it. So I think that's really cool that you're doing that. Because you're the only other art podcaster I've spoken to. Now I know there are other ones out there, so don't get me wrong. This isn't like you know
Yep.
that unique, but I think there aren't enough.
Definitely not.
You know.
Definitely not.
Now
And
have you?
for me, oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, please.
For me, I really wanted to kind of help bring a spotlight onto people that are selling their art too, because a lot of people struggle with that part, with the whole selling of the art and getting your name out there and stuff. I found a lot of creative people that I've known personally in my life. They're very creative and can make these amazing things, but as far as getting it out, sometimes there's a bit lacking. So being able to help people find these artists and the art they're making definitely makes me like so excited. Like, I love when I get everyone to like the artist, when I see my friends, oh, they like this artist, they like this artist. It's just like, yay, I'm helping.
Mhm. Well, and like I said, it's a very underappreciated and undervalued part of part of our society is the arts in general, right? I mean, I know in the United States here, and by the way, folks, Tabby is broadcasting from
New
New
Brunswick,
New
St. John, New
Brunswick.
Brunswick,
That's right. So this is my first international podcast. So thank you for being
in
my first.
Canada.
Appreciate that. In Canada, absolutely. Yeah. Um, but yeah, just it's been very unappreciated. I know in the States here, education and things like that, in that world of work, the arts tend to take a back burner to that, and
Yep.
they emphasize more sports and things. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that, I think our kids miss out on that, right?
I would agree with you there. And there's so much that you can get from the arts, even if you're never going to use the arts. And like if you paint pictures and you're never going to sell them, that's perfectly fine. Just getting that creativity out of you and manifesting it in the world. Like, I think that societies, great and small, really benefit from any type of expression of the people, right? Like,
Right.
art is people expressing themselves, what they feel inside. And sometimes you can't put that into words, but you can put it into paint or thread.
Right. Right. Yeah, and the good news is I think, if you visit a lot of airports lately, at least I've noticed this, seem to be a real mecca for artistic expression, which is really interesting. I would say the beginning of this year. I don't remember the last time I went through Boston Logan Airport here, but even something as simple as the tile work on the floor, which you might not normally notice, but as I'm walking towards the terminals, I'm seeing this inlay work of whales and aquatic creatures, to represent, the Northern Atlantic. And then places like the Denver airport has a lot of sculptural items, um, and that people see, and then they can appreciate that. So just walking through an airport and seeing some of these just really wonderful works of art, that has value.
Yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
sure
And yet
does. Oh,
sometimes it's very underappreciated. So,
no, I
um,
agree with you 100%. Our this city here, St. John,
mhm.
which is New Brunswick, Canada. I should have said Canada, but New Brunswick is the province. They have different artworks that they put installed every year, and they have like cement sculptors, kind of like they have saws and everything. And once a year they do this where they all meet, and for a week they build these sculptures out of just chunks of stone,
Hmm.
and it's amazing. But they have different art installations throughout the city. So they did fish just before COVID. So they were huge salmon that were painted, and each one had an interpretive plaque talking about what the fish artwork was depicting. But they were phenomenal, and they
Hmm.
were every couple of blocks you'd find one of these fish. So me and my kids actually went through and tried to find all of the fish to see that, and they were remarkable.
Yeah. 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 That's pretty cool. Now, speaking of art, would you mind if I brought up some of your art? Maybe we could take
Yeah.
a look at it. I think you folks are going to love this, and I'll try to do the best I can to describe. Because as you folks know, or if you don't know, tomorrow what I'll do is I'll put this up on Spotify, and then that's going to get served out to some of the other major podcast networks, which may or may not have video. So here's the first picture, and what are we looking at here, Tabby?
So this is a quilt I called Scrappy Christmas. This is the first actual pieced quilt that I made. Like I had made quilted things before, putting the two pieces of fabric and the quilting batty inside, but this is the first one I actually made that was pieced. So each one of the little colors you see are small patches mixed with a big patch into the quilt top.
Okay, so that looks super hard.
It's not really hard. They're all squares, so
Mhm.
it was fairly easy that way. It was a lot of chain piecing, which is really nice. If you sew a lot, chain piecing is when you just put all of your squares in without cutting the thread. It was actually a lot of fun to do that. Putting it together the
Mhm.
first time was a little bit hard because I was struggling with where the colors should go, but that's definitely a newbie kind of thing. If I was to remake it, it would probably look a lot different now.
Yeah. Now the one that's behind you, that one you made as well, you said, right?
No, so the one right to the right of me is one of the other ones in the quilt show, but the one on the right, on the red, in the red, is the one I did.
No, I mean the one that's behind you with this broadcast right now, the one that's on the wall.
Oh yeah, this one here. Yes,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I did this one.
Yeah, so which one is so that you said the red one was your first one?
My first ever pieced one. Yeah.
Okay.
This
So,
one here is one I did through my quilt guild. They did a class for beginner courses.
mhm.
So there's different um, ways to do things. Like I've got the rail fence and applique pieces. It's all different ways to make a quilt block. So we got to do all kinds. Like there's curved piecing, which It's up here. I don't know if you can see that. No,
I see part of it.
but
Yeah.
it's where you actually sew the pieces curved into the blocks.
Wow.
That's a little bit hard.
Yeah. Still, it looks amazing. So
Thank you.
you definitely learned.
I
All
did
right.
learn a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
These
It's beautiful.
these cherry blossoms, when I made them, I actually made them thinking about my mom because she just loves cherry blossoms.
Yeah, this is really, really pretty, and this one really stood out to me. I know you sent me a bunch of pictures, and as I was going through, that one was very striking because the red and white flowers they're put against this yellow and blue background. Really, really pretty. I mean, I now now do you with your own artwork? Um, are you making art and selling it, or are you just making art because you enjoy it?
So I do sell things. I sell a lot of my double-sided dolls, and I do quilts. Um, it's something I'm probably going to put a little more focus on once my youngest goes to school in September.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I do these ones here. I was just kind of experimenting. So this one I have not tried to sell or anything. I just kind of it's actually hanging up in the other room. I just love it.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's
But
beautiful. Now, is that acrylic or is that watercolor? What is that?
this one's acrylic, yeah,
It's acrylic. On canvas or canvas paper or what's it on?
canvas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really pretty. I mean, that one really stood out, like I said.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we're moving into the
This
doll
is
making.
a double-sided doll. So this doll here, underneath her skirt, has a second doll.
Okay,
And
let's see if we can bring her up. There's her.
this is the underside of that doll.
Right.
So when you flip up her skirt, you find this doll underneath.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an older concept, right? Having the dual doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened was my mom actually asked me if I would make my sister's daughter, a double-sided doll. She's like, "Do you think you can make a doll with two sides?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that."
Right.
So this is what I had come up with. I mean, I've changed the dress a couple of times. So I've got, I think, 3 or 4 different patterns for the dress now. But overall, the concept is pretty much stayed the same with a couple of quirks to make them a little bit better.
Right. That's that's neat. I love that.
And she still loves her doll. This
Oh,
is
I
an
know that.
acrylic painting done on like a canvas paper.
Mhm.
But this one is like not many people have seen this picture yet. This is definitely a very emotional picture for me. This is my what I view my anxiety as, kind of like
Right.
that struggling to be able to breathe and feeling trapped and suffocated. This is kind of my what came out when I was highly anxious.
Right. Yeah, I was saying before also, when we were chatting a little bit that my wife does paintings. I don't want to say similar because this represents you, and of course she
Yep.
isn't doing what you're doing specifically, but there does seem to be this nexus between using art to express your feelings or your emotional state or things, bringing things to in a visual format based on the way you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because this is a very, very striking painting. I mean, you've got that mouth up at the top. You've got these bubbles. Clearly, you're drowning in this, right?
Yep.
Um, just a very, very bold in your face painting, and I can totally see and feel the emotion that you were feeling when you painted that anxiety. I can absolutely see that. So well done. I love that.
Thank
Now, do you
you.
plan on doing more of those, or is that?
Yeah, I thought about maybe trying to do like a line of ones that are similar to that.
Mhm.
Um, but I've had a lot going on lately, so it hasn't been more than a thought. Like I have books of ideas, so I buy big books, and then I just fill them with everything that I think about. It's sometimes
Right.
I go back and pick out those ideas, but it's something I toyed with. I made one where the girl was under the waterfall and she was holding up her arms as the water cascaded over her,
Mhm.
but I didn't like that one quite so much.
Right.
So I got to get back into the groove of trying to make another one that I like better to go with this one.
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, that's something I have never experimented with, because for some reason, I tend to paint realistic nature type things. I've tried my hand at like abstract painting. I did that once, and I stepped back and I went, ugh, this is just not me, and again, there's a lot of painters that I know, and of course, my wife Christine being one of them. They're a little less uptight about, and I mean this in a good way. They're a little less uptight about the media itself, right? Like some people seem to have this propensity to be able to experiment, right? Whether or not it's, painting something that's representative of an emotion or painting something like a Jackson Pollock, which is totally abstract. I struggle with that, and I don't know if that's because of my military background, whether or not that's because, I've got this streak of perfectionism in me that I'm working on, because none of us really, that doesn't help anybody when you're a perfectionist, because there's no such thing as perfection. But to be able to do that, I think again is just it's a wonderful trait to have.
Thank you. It is. I
Yeah.
am a bit of a perfectionist. It is hard, and I do struggle with abstract. Like I've tried to do abstract a lot, and my husband's like, "You would be so good at abstract." Like I can't wrap my head around the way like abstract kind of looks. Like I like this because it's like a stylized cartoon.
Hmm.
Um, I love what your wife says here. For me, it's allowing my inner self to express herself on the canvas.
Right.
This is like, for me, it's how I feel. I just want to get that. Like when I did this, I was really, really, really peaked emotionally, and so I was really trying to get out kind of how I was feeling. And so
Hmm.
once I did that, I was so tired afterwards. But it got out everything I had felt. Like I felt way less anxiety afterwards. I didn't have that energy in me.
Right.
But I wouldn't say it's necessarily abstract though, because it's kind of like a stylized character, I guess.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
do make these are my favorite to make, but they're like silhouette paintings. So I do a different colored background and then I paint silhouettes on it. So my favorite one is like this pelican that's standing up, and just beyond him is a fish that's jumping out of the water, but the
Hmm.
pelican can't reach him, and he just looks so sad standing there looking at this fish. And that's probably one of my favorite paintings ever. No one will
Hmm.
ever be able to buy it because it just, I don't know what it is about it. It's me.
Right. Right.
But
Wow. Yeah. I don't think I saw that one. You didn't send a picture of that one, right?
no, it's hanging up on my wall. I didn't send any pictures of it.
All right. Well, at some
I
point, send me a picture. I'd just love to see it just for my own.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, I
For
think that would
sure.
be great. So, let's see. Christine also wrote, if I get my cursor over here, we go. She says it's a way to express emotions in a
Yes.
constructive way instead of a destructive way, for me anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true though, because if you don't get those feelings out, like I know for me, if I don't get out how anxious I am and people are bugging me, I might snap at them.
Mm,
Generally, I'm not a mean person or anything, but I've yelled at my kids more than once for bugging me when I was stressed out.
yeah. 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 Unfortunately, kids, I don't think always know, but anyway, we love them
No.
anyway.
Oh yeah, we do. And they love us too, even though they don't want to sometimes.
Right. Right. So where do you see, your podcast? I'm going to switch back over to the podcast. But again,
For
your
sure.
artwork is spectacular. So thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for sharing it with me and with my audience. I'm sure we're all going to appreciate seeing that. But back to your podcast, where do you see your podcast going? And you've been operating it now for what, about a year? Running it for
Yeah,
about a
so
year
it'll
now?
be a year in December that I've been doing this. Um, so like over the next little while, I have some personal things that are going to cause a little bit of tumultualism, probably for the next month or so.
Right.
But I would really like to keep doing what I'm doing with the podcast, and eventually, I have some ideas for uh, shows that would be related to the podcast, where I would be experimenting with art with the artists with me.
Okay.
So there's a bit more required for that because I'll need someone to actually take the video of us, and it
Mhm.
would have to be done in different areas, right? The head, everything for the art. But it is something that I really, really want to do, is actually work with the artists. I'd like to try all the different arts, and I want to call it Tabby Tries Everything.
Oh, I love that. I
where
love
I
that.
go
That
and
is a cool
talk to
name.
everyone and they teach me what they're doing and I can try it.
No,
So,
that would be great because I know, I mean, if you look at YouTube, you see a lot of things like unboxing, you see a lot of people eating food, you see a lot of all these
yep.
things, and I don't recall ever seeing that specifically.
And I
So
think
that's
it
a
would be a
really
lot
cool
of
idea.
fun.
Yeah,
Generally, generally artists want to kind of show, like, share their art with you. They want you to get the enjoyment they get out of it.
mhm,
And I love kind of seeing what people do. Oh, thanks, Christine. But I do love seeing what people do. So it would be really kind of neat to get them to help me do it too, right?
right.
So, and it's
Now
another chance for me to show people.
have you ever had a problem getting anybody?
No, not
No.
really. Sometimes I don't reach out, and
Mhm,
that's my fault. But generally, I haven't had any problems. I've had a couple people that were too nervous to come on the show,
mhm.
which I completely understand. Um, I am an artist too, and I am kind of quirky, you know. But generally, people are pretty good about it, and they seem to really enjoy the show once they get there. I've had a few people not watch anything and then get on the show and like not have any clue what's going on. And I'm like, don't worry, we're just talking.
Right,
Like, I try to base it kind of as a conversation because I want the artist to tell me where they're going.
right. Yeah, I found that, because I do have a coach that I work with, mindset coach, and one of the things that she's been really talking about a lot lately is, I don't wanna use the word aggressive, it's more assertive. I think that and I agree with this, and she's pointed this out a few times, that if you want people, for example, for your podcast, and I did, and I am finding this out, by the way, me being a little stubborn, sometimes I'll hear something and go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever," still do it my way, and then slowly realize, "Oh, you know what? She was right." But when you put out, this is what I'm finding. If I'm putting out a solicitation, for example, like for October, I'm like, well, I don't have anybody for October. If you're interested, go to my
Yep,
site, sign up, and I'd love to have you.
yep,
Um, Nothing. However, if I reach out to them directly, they're like, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. So for me, that was a really big awakening, um, because it does then put the power really, and I don't mean power in a bad way, but it puts the power back in my hands to coordinate my life moving forward the way I want it to be, by just
yep,
stepping out of my comfort zone and not relying on this, um, kind of the soft approach, but more on the more assertive approach, right? Because I mean, I want artists on my program, just like you want
yeah.
artists on your program, because artists are very interesting people.
Oh, they sure are. And
Yeah.
what they make is amazing. And like, where does it come from, right? And even the artists don't know a lot of the time. So it's kind
Mhm.
of cool to kind of talk to them. But I know what you're saying because if I don't, because generally what I do is I follow different art groups and I follow the artists themselves and I kind of keep an, and if I like what they're doing and stuff, then I reach out to them
Mhm.
and I send them an email. This is who I am. This is what I do. Do you want to be involved? And generally, I have good feedback. But when I do like the soft thing, like you're saying there, where I put up a message and I'm like, hey, if you know somebody that wants to be on the show, let me know.
Mhm.
I've had no luck with that.
Right.
So generally, talking to people individually is how I get them on the show. And so sometimes it's a little hard when someone doesn't respond to you when you've spent 2 days going through their body of work to see, how you feel about them and what, whether you think they'd be a good fit or not. And then you don't hear back from them and you're like, no, I really liked you.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Oh,
Yeah, I've had some folks now that, I've reached out, and of course they politely decline, which again, that's fine, because not everybody's, it's not always the right time for people. Um,
yeah,
but then after a while, they'll reach out to me and say, maybe I'm ready now, right? So I've got a couple folks that's kind of how that worked. And that's a really good feeling, because again, I think that what we're both doing, Tabby, is we're offering this unique insight into the creative process, that even as an artist, you know, you don't know where other people are coming from. You don't know what their inspiration is, right? Their motivation.
yeah.
So how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to listen to your podcast? How would they do that?
So you can look up Unique Artisans on YouTube and on Facebook. Um, I don't have a website just for Unique Artisans, but if you go tabbies.ca/Unique Artisans, I'm on there.
Okay.
And yeah, I search up Unique Artisans and you'll find me. Facebook and YouTube, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. Yeah, I've got a lot of. There's a lot of places you can go to find me now.
It's good. It's good to get around. Now, are you?
Yeah, it is.
Are you using any of the like Spotify or anything like that for your podcast, or is it just?
No, I haven't yet. My middle child keeps bugging me because she's got her music on Spotify. She's like,
Mhm.
it doesn't take that much. It's not that hard. I'm like, I know, I will. I just, yeah, seems like I'm dragging my feet again.
When it's the right time, it'll happen. If in fact that's an avenue that you want to explore, but I think definitely having it up on that would even open up, expose your content to more people. But
Yeah.
when the timing's
No,
right.
and I totally agree with you. I do kind of struggle with the fact that they don't have pictures. I guess it's because I really like visuals.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's hard when I can't show everybody the art. But I think that is something I'm just gonna have to get over and go on and get it done with. Because once I get on there, I'm sure I won't worry about it at all. It's always that you worry about something until it happens, and then you don't worry about it anymore.
Yep, that's exactly right. Boy, I couldn't have said that better myself. So, all right,
Yeah.
Tabby. Well, I can't believe our half an hour already went by so fast as I kind of figured it would.
I know.
Yeah.
I love talking to you though. So
Oh, I love talking to you. So next time you need somebody on your podcast, let me know. I'll be available for you, and hopefully
all
you'll come
right.
back on and visit us again sometime soon. We'd appreciate that because you've been a great
Yeah.
guest. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, John. I've had a great time. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah. So, folks, I will be letting you all go for now. But next week, we're going to be talking with an animal communicator. I'm going to have Jennifer
Okay.
Etzweiler. She's going to be on the show next Tuesday at 5 p.m. So it's going to be interesting because I don't think I've actually had a full-blown animal communicator on the program, and there is an art to it.
Yeah, my dad trained dogs. I would definitely say that there's an art to that.
I have no doubt. So that's going to be an interesting program. So Tabby, you have a wonderful evening. If you could hang on right after the show here, I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, folks, I'll see you next week. Thank you so very much for joining me on the ARTalk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.